This is Math Minutes with Majan Minds, where we are reviewing skills you need to know for success in grade 12. Okay, in the previous video, I discussed how to arrive at the formula for the first principles and what that means. So now we're going to use differentiation, or find the derivative, which I didn't actually use that word in the last video, so let me just state what this is. This is the gradient of the tangent. We'll just say this: the gradient of the tangent of the curve. The gradient of the tangent of the curve. Now, I'll put in parentheses here, at a point. You don't always have to do the at a point part, but you can do the at a point part. All right, so let's just get rid of that little dot there. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go, and in order to find the gradient of the tangent of the curve, we're going to go and get our formula, which we learned about in the last video, which looks like this. And it's going to be, the way I remember it, as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and you may remember we simplified that to this. Okay, so this is a formula that we're going to be working with, that we're going to be using. So now what I want to do is, we have y equals x squared. This is a formula that we are supposed to find the derivative of, that we're supposed to find the gradient of the tangent of the curve of. So it's y equals x squared. I'll come back up to that formula in a minute, but let's remind ourselves what this looks like. Okay, y equals x squared looks like this. And we have a point here at 0, 0. This is a point 1 and 1. And then we'll just leave it like that. And negative 1, positive 1. Okay, so if we are considering multiple points, what we're going to do here is, let's just write our formula down again. And it's going to be, whoops, the limit okay, let's just write our formula down again. It's going to be the limit as h approaches 0 of f of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. Okay, so how do we do this? What do we do? Well, keep in mind that f of x is equal to x squared. So right here, you have an f of x. So you just put in x squared right there. So limit as h approaches 0 of, there's going to be an x squared there. There's going to be an h down here. Well, what do we do with this? Okay, well, let's just think about something here. What is f of 2? F of 2 is 2 squared. What is f of triangle? F of triangle is triangle squared. What is f of x? X squared. What is f of x plus h? F of x plus h is x plus h squared. So right here, I'm going to write x plus h quantity squared. And then we have the limit as h approaches 0 in the front. So now, if we want to find the derivative here, or the gradient of the tangent, we're just going to simplify the right-hand side of this equation. So how are we going to do that? Well, in the top, we're going to do x plus h times x plus h minus x squared divided by h. And then that is going to become x squared plus xh and another xh. So that's an xh plus xh is going to be 2xh. And then here at the end, h squared. And then I'm going to go back to what color I had, minus x squared over h. Alright, so now we keep moving on down here, and we simplify, and we're going to get the limit as h approaches 0 of, now notice, we have an x squared minus an x squared. Those are going to cancel, leaving us with 2xh plus h squared squared, h squared over h. I'm trying to indicate something here, hopefully that you'll see. Well, notice here that this yellow expression, everybody's got an h. So what can we do with that? We can put the blue h out front here, and we'll have a blue h in the bottom. And then what are we going to have? Well, if we take an h out of there, we're going to have a 2x plus, and if we take an h, factor an h out of there, we're going to have another h left, but we'll leave him as yellow. So there's a yellow h and a blue h make h squared. And so nicely now these h's cancel, and as we do, what we're left with here is a limit as h approaches 0 of 2x plus h. Now the interesting thing is h is going to 0, so this h is becoming a 0, so that leaves us with 2x. And so what does that mean? That is the gradient of the tangent of the curve. Gradient of the tangent of the curve is 2x. Now, this is our answer here. I'm going to change this in the next video to something much simpler, but for now we're just going to call it that, and it's going to equal to 2x. So 2x is, wait a minute. How can your gradient be a formula? Like, I want to know the gradient of the curve right here at that point. How can it be 2x? Like, and then I want to know it here. How can it be? I know the gradient here. This gradient, mt right there, is equal to 0 because it's a flat line. It's 0. The gradient is 0. How can it be 2x? Well, and furthermore, over here, this is kind of hard to draw this one, but this guy's going down. He's supposed to be a negative number. How can he be 2x? How can the answer to this question, which by the way it is, how can the answer be the gradient is equal to 2x? The reason, and we'll just say this is the gradient of the tangent, is 2x. How can it be that? Because you plug in the numbers to find the specific values. So for example here, let's say we plug in 2 times an x value of 0 right there. 2 times 0 is going to produce a gradient that is 0. Okay, good. That's what it said it was. When I plug in 0 to my gradient formula, it gives me 0. Well, what if I plug in 1 right here? It's 2x, so 2 times 1, the gradient here is going to be equal to 2. Oh, that makes sense. This looks like it could be a gradient of 2. It's going up. This one's negative. It's supposed to be a negative number, so it's going downhill, so that would be 2 times, what am I plugging in there? Negative 1. See right here? If I plug in negative 1 to find this point's gradient, 2 times negative 1 is going to equal to negative 2. And that makes sense. The gradient of the tangent is a negative number. It's going downhill right there. And so that's how you use, now this explanation you don't have to do, but I want you to understand. The first principles is this process moving down the right hand side here, where we start with this guy. We plug in our formula x squared. So we have x plus h squared minus x squared. Then we just simplify, and we end up with 2x as the answer. If you found this video useful, go ahead and subscribe in the top left, and then head on over to majonminds.com to check out more videos and resources.